What in the 20s is going
in the
on?
20s,
Think about
yeah.
the 20s.
What
baby.
plenty.
What in the 20s is
I
going
am
on?
here for my 20s, baby.
This is the 20s.
Welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Zamam Kize, and this is What in the 20s, a podcast where you listen to me grow through it, baby. On this episode, we're going to be speaking about faking confidence. Sometimes you just got to fake the confidence. I have opened up many times on this podcast about how just growing up, or even in general, like I am considerably shy, I get really nervous, I get really overwhelmed, I get like sometimes the emotion of like just being anywhere or doing anything, just like, it can make me feel so perplexed. Like, I also grew up in a household where we were just very like timid, very calm, very like, humble kind of people. And it makes me sometimes like too nervous to be the person that speaks up, too nervous to be the person that stands out, too nervous to be the person that just has something to say sometimes. And I was always like that, as a child, I would always just kind of like one to hide in the shadows, one to just like disappear, let everybody else go before me and stuff like that. But it was just kind of difficult to do that, I guess, because I was also a bit of like an overachiever in that sense. Like I wanted to do so much and like obtain so much. And because of that, like ironically, I just kept standing out anyways, but it always felt so stressful and overwhelming for me to like, be seen, even kind of like putting my hand up, even if I knew the answer, I'd kind of just feel like, let me just let somebody else have it or whatever, because it just felt so scary to just kind of put myself out there essentially. And I think that we can feel like that even in our adult life, right? This fear of embarrassing yourself, in public and stuff. So it feels better to just like not have the confidence to kind of like speak out, do more, put yourself out there. It just feels so like jarring, right? The humiliation, of like people in public witnessing you say something or do something that's a bit like, that's weird. Even with this podcast, like I sometimes always think like, did that land well? Did I say what I wanted to say and did it come out the way I meant for it? And I'm always just like, oh, what if when it just comes out and everybody watches it or hears it and stuff, they're thinking like, oh, Zama, whoa, what was that? And sorry. And I feel like sometimes we feel like we don't want to get things wrong also, and I know that I feel like that also. Like sometimes I wouldn't speak up or try or whatever it is because I don't want to get it wrong. And then everybody can see that like, oh, you got it. There were so many times I was humiliated in school and stuff like that, where I would like come out boldly and have the confidence to be like, okay, let me set out, let me do this thing. And then it will go so terribly wrong. And when you're flushed and flustered and you feel so like, and everybody is laughing at you, like falling. That's what it feels like, honestly. It feels like falling in public. And my friends had no shame. They would laugh at me. So like, and I think that's just how it feels, right? Like confidence, I think sometimes we might feel like we don't have that confidence because it's scary. It's scary to try. It's scary to put yourself out there. It's scary to be perceived and all the rest. And you kind of just hold yourself back, right? And unfortunately, it has costed me many opportunities being someone who didn't feel brave enough to be confident. Because I wouldn't put my name up and say like, I too want to be included in this. I too want to be considered for this position. I too want to be seen with wanting this and trying out for this. And it costed me so many moments of actually showing and proving that I can do something, that I can excel at something, because of that like self-doubt that will creep in and just feeling not good enough, inadequate, feeling like, maybe it just won't be as good as somebody else's, and all of that. And that's what I mean. I'm like, you have to start pretending to be confident sometimes, because if you keep letting those thoughts kind of consume you, take over, all of that kind of stuff, you're going to start believing it. And you're going to really believe that your personality is someone who isn't confident, that you have low self-esteem, that you should be someone in the shadows, reserved, and all of that kind of stuff. And that's when we start thinking about confidence as a skill, right? Instead of thinking that like some people just are born with that confidence, some people just have that confidence. When I tell you that the trajectory of the way that like my life was, in terms of if you consider my background, my upbringing, the family I was a part of, all of that kind of stuff, it is really, statistically, I shouldn't be an extrovert, or it's just almost like it's insane to think that like, you could be a people person, you could be out and like enjoy being around the crowds, being in the limelights, being in public. It kind of doesn't add up how that happened, but that's when I started realizing that all of this is a skill, learning people, learning how to socialize, learning how to get along with people. It's something you can learn. And that's the pretending to be confident that I'm trying to speak about. Just pretending that like you have no fears, no worries, you feel so okay with just approaching anyone, talking, even though deep down in your heart, in your mind, you're like, oh, I'm so nervous. You just kind of, start teaching yourself to be brave anyways, to be courageous anyways. And I think how to start off with it is to show interest, right? Someone's talking to you about something, say, I don't know, basketball. I don't know anything about basketball, right? Someone's talking to me about it. Instead of just going like, that doesn't resonate with me, I don't care. I'm actually like, oh, what? Tell me more about it. Ask questions. Ask about the different uniforms, the colors, who's the best player, Tell me, just ask, seem like you care. And you might find that you actually do, that there's something interesting that you can, resonate with and relate to. I mean, I remember watching the documentary, The Last Dance, if I'm correct, right? That is hands down one of the best documentaries I've ever watched. And again, this is coming from someone who knows nothing about basketball, but I'm like, you know what? Let me just go check it out, right? Showing an interest with something. And I think, number one, that makes you a little bit more interesting. To be interesting, you have to actually have interests. And I think that when you're speaking to someone and they can see that you're interested in what they have to say, it makes them want to speak to you more, right? And it's not about like, don't fake that you care. Don't do that. No. Like actually put yourself in a position to want to know more, to want to be knowledgeable, to want to have that like, next thing, engage. So when I say engage, so after this conversation that you've, spoken about basketball, like I said, I went and I watched the documentary, The Last Dance. Now you have something to speak about. There's something that you've watched and you can share your own perspective, the way that it relates to you, the things that you found interesting about it and stuff like that. You can come back the next day and be like, speaking about basketball, actually, I blah, 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 blah. You now have like more confidence, right, to speak about this topic because you went and like did your own little thing about it, own little research about it, your own little excursion around the topic, right? And that's like what I want to encourage. When it comes to engaging, it's more than just listening to someone. It's more than just hearing someone speak about something, speak about what they're going through in their relationship, speak about what they're going through at work, speak about different meals they're thinking about, different whatever, you know what I'm saying? It's about taking that extra step and that initiative to think about how it relates to you or something that interests you or intrigues you or whatever, and actually adding to the conversation. And that is called value, right? Adding value to the conversation, adding knowledge to it. Because in the beginning, you didn't know about it, right? But you didn't let your lack of knowledge keep you from having confidence to ask questions about it, right? And then furthermore, you went and did your own kind of research, you went and did your own kind of thinking, and started engaging with the topic. And that, I promise you, will give you more confidence about whatever it is that the thing is about, because now you have your own little opinions about the situation. You have your own little kind of like oh, experience. You know what I'm saying? Like this time, there was this time back then when I did this and this and this and this, and I met this or I saw this, or, I have a friend who, I might not be so interested in this, but my friend actually really loves this person and was talking to me. You know what I'm saying? That is called engagement, being able to now intrigue the person you're talking to back about something. And it could be the smallest thing. I think sometimes we think just because we don't know something about a topic, we're just like, I should be excluded from this. I'm not the target audience, and you just kind of let it go. But we don't realize how many opportunities we're missing to engage with people, to get to know people, to get to know ourselves better even. If we actually take the leap to think about different things in our lives that we relate to concerning the topic. And I think that if you really start listening to people more, you're going to realize that there's a lot in life that we can connect the dots with, right? Someone could be talking to me about basketball and I could relate that to my passion of something else, and we could have a dialogue going, right? That's the whole point. And that confidence kind of builds, and you start feeling more, just more excited to speak on things and stuff like that, because you're learning how to interact with people. You're learning how to add to topics, to conversations and stuff, rather than just being someone who's just like quiet and feels like what they have to say has no value. You would be surprised, because the conversation could start off just speaking about basketball and could end up speaking about dreams, passions, ambitions, and the tangent that you could go on. And that's called building relationships, right? It's also like a way of networking in a sense, and putting yourself out there, showing what it is that you're interested about. Because now people are like, oh, so tell me more about, this thing that you're passionate about and things like that. It makes you feel more excited to speak about yourself. Another piece of advice I'd give is, the cliche kind of looking the part. If you look good, you feel good, right? I think that when you kind of put yourself together as like the most confident version of you, you tend to start performing as that version of you. You're sending signals to your brain, your mind, and all of that kind of stuff, the attitude that you have, the way that you carry yourself, the way that you'll speak, the way that you'll sit, the way that you walk, the way that you just kind of present yourself to the world will kind of reflect because of the actions you've taken into pouring into yourself, right? And when you kind of dress the part, you kind of just start imitating that version of you that feels like that confident person, right? Learning how to have a routine and all the rest makes you more confident, because you are fixed on something that, at this time you're going to be doing this thing, you're going to, pour into yourself in this way and all of that kind of stuff. It builds that momentum in yourself that there's just a way that you do things. I find people with a routine, are very confident because they know what to expect. They know what's coming. And it's just things like that, like making yourself, I guess, appear like that version of you want to be, I think makes it so much easier to just kind of feel like, what, I might not feel the most confident today, but because I look so good, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to show up and show out or whatever, putting on, I don't know, perfume, cologne, all the rest. It just makes you feel like, oh, I smell so good, doing your hair a certain way, all of that kind of stuff. It's just that little extra boost, It's like a confidence booster, like, oh, and even if you might not feel like your energy is on a high today and all of that kind of stuff, having these extra things kind of help, because even just hearing compliments from people feels like a little bit of like a boost, like, oh, wow, okay, I don't have to be so self-conscious. I don't have to be so inwards and withdrawn and all the rest. But those are little things. And I think that all of this really, I know Mel Robbins was basically describing confidence as a willingness to try, essentially. And I think that's such a beautiful way to put it. It's like, I think that so many times, because I was so shy and all of that kind of stuff, I wouldn't try out for something. I'd feel like, oh, what if I fail? What if this? What if that? What if, you know what I'm saying? And I wouldn't put myself out there. I wouldn't, I just, it felt too scary. And I know a lot of people feel like that. A lot of people feel like they wouldn't even set out on this goal that they have, on this dream that they have and all the rest. And they don't try. It could be the smallest thing or the biggest thing. And you don't try because you don't feel like you're confident enough to succeed. You've already kind of put those self-limiting beliefs on yourself and imposed that on yourself. And I think that if you just tell yourself, just try anyways, you're going to realize just how much confidence will build from it, right? Like, just let's see what happens. Let's just, you know what I'm saying? Instead of constantly thinking that, like, no, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy enough, I'm not, all of that kind of stuff. Just try anyways. Even if it doesn't work out, just try anyways. Even if nobody sees you, just try anyways. Even if you have like 20% energy today, just try anyways, And I think that trying keeps you in a pattern of setting yourself up for more, honestly speaking, because you could put yourself in a position where you surprise yourself, where you actually see just how much potential you have in you. I think that in terms of like certain tips I would give, in addition to everything else about like having this fake confidence, is learning how to keep the promises you make with yourself, right? Stop being so comfortable with letting yourself down. Stop being so comfortable with disappointing yourself. Stop just ruminating in this feeling of like, you know what, it wasn't going to work out anyways. I wasn't good enough anyways. Like, get out of that and commit to the promises you make to yourself. Build credibility with yourself. That means that if you say you're going to wake up at this time every single day, make sure that when that time comes, you wake up, If you say you're going to be doing this at this time, you're going to be taking time to do that, you're going to be spending more time, keep the promises you make to yourself. That will help you build more confidence and a surety in yourself. It helps you build discipline with yourself. And in those ways, it'll give you confidence in yourself. I know there was a time in my life where I didn't trust myself. And that feels so insane to say, but so true. I didn't feel confident in my decision making. I didn't feel confident in my own gut feeling. I didn't feel confident in my intuition, because I wasn't trusting myself. I wasn't doing enough that made me feel like I could hear myself clearly. I would just always succumb to whatever felt right or whatever felt like the group wanted and all the rest. I could not hear the voice of my own inner voice speaking to me. And I think that when you go so long with not developing a relationship with yourself, a good relationship with yourself, it becomes very difficult for you to hear when you're speaking to yourself, to hear when there's conviction being spoken over you and all the rest. And I think that kind of makes you lose confidence in yourself and esteem in yourself, because you become so used to just following what you think other people would want from you, And I had to learn how to sit with myself a lot more. But in terms of sitting with myself, making promises to myself and then showing myself evidence of me being able to fulfill those promises, of me being able to see those promises come to fruition, those seeds grow and have harvest. And when those things were happening, it built so much more confidence in terms of the things that I would say, the things that I would set out to do, because I started thinking, oh, okay, I can do this. I started feeling more excited. I started feeling like, no. Because I've seen myself do some hard things before, I'm pretty sure I can get through hard things that are coming ahead of me. This hard challenge that I'm being faced with right now. And that's the confidence I'm speaking about. It's like when you've seen yourself have a pattern of being able to overcome things from your past, that is clear evidence that you do have the willpower to get through it again and again and again. And that's where I'm going to slide into the importance of practice and rehearsal. It is so important. It is so important that you practice. Do it over and over and over and over and over again. And over again and over again and over again. Teach your brain, teach your habits, teach your mind, teach the way that you operate, how you want to operate, teach yourself what is the expectation, what is the standard. It doesn't come the first time you decide that this is the way you want to live your life. It doesn't come the second time or the third. It comes by doing it over and over and over and over. And that's the confidence that kind of builds within you, right? Because when you do something so many times, the fear of doing it kind of becomes less and less and less and less. You stop feeling so scared about this like project that you have going on, this dream that you're setting out to do, this challenge, this whatever it is, you know, you start feeling more confident in pursuing things because of the way that you've built that muscle within you to just set out to things, you know. Oh my word, I'm going to get this quote so wrong, but they were basically speaking about winners and professionals and all the rest. They train so that they cannot lose, right? They work hard, you know, each and every time, so that by the time it's game day, you know, it's almost as if it's impossible to lose because they've rehearsed so much, you know, they've visualized it so much. They can see the game, they can see everything that's about to happen, that it's almost difficult to kind of penetrate that kind of way of thinking and performing because they've already set out to do it. You know, even when you think about like a performance, you don't rehearse the day before for that performance. We're rehearsing over and over and over and over so that by the time we're on stage, you know, we know what the lines are. You know, we have to be off script type of a situation. We know where to stand, where to go. I know there was this clip, you know, with Beyonce when she was performing on her tour, the Cowboy Carter tour. They missed the marking on the stage where she needed to stand because she had all these machines that were about to, like, you know, move around her. But she still found a way to stand at the exact spot she needed to and avoid being knocked out by the machines. And that comes by practicing over and over and over, that it's almost muscle memory to you, knowing where you should be, even if they haven't marked your points, you know? And I think that when you do something so often and really dedicate yourself to that rehearsal time, it makes it so that when it's time to really, you know, pop up and show out, it's almost difficult to get things wrong. And I think that when you really get that into your head, that we need to get something going over and over and over and over and over, you know, don't get bored. Don't feel like, why are we doing this again? Recognize that you're doing this so that you have the confidence to set out. It's almost difficult for you to slip up and lose that and feel like you're lost in it because you've been working on this, you know? I also want to speak about self-parenting. Self-parenting, I think, is basically treating yourself like, you know, you're a child but you're the parents too, if that makes sense, being the parents to yourself. And so in that sense, if you think about having a child, right, wouldn't you keep wanting to speak motivating words onto them, tell them, no, try, set out. You wouldn't tell them, no, don't do that, don't pursue that, don't, you know what I'm saying? And that's a way you got to, you know, kind of train yourself, is to self-parent. Teach yourself that, like, just because your child doesn't want to wake up and go to school, you're going to get them to school anyways. And you got to tell yourself that same thing. Just because you don't feel like it today, I'm going to get you going and doing that because it's what we have to do, you know? Learning to say positive affirmations, you know, to yourself, learning to guide yourself, lead yourself, also give yourself grace and all of that. Think of how you would parent, you know, any child, and reflect that onto yourself. I think self-parenting is a good way of coaching yourself into just treating yourself better and building that confidence again with yourself instead of just giving yourself so much leeway to not even try. I will say, don't take things personally because nothing is directly aimed at you. A lot of life is a projection, right? And I think that when you learn not to take things too personally, it's very difficult to be knocked off of your confidence and your self-esteem. When you take everything too personally, it means you're easily manipulated, you're easily kind of misguided and all the rest. People can mess with your self-esteem like this, you know? They can mess with your confidence like this. They can mess with how you feel about yourself, how you see yourself, so easily. It'll affect you so much and bother you so much. And you just really got to get into the practice of recognizing that just because someone may say something that didn't necessarily land well with you, it doesn't mean it's a reflection of you. It doesn't mean it's something you should take in and absorb and all the rest. It's just, you can listen, you can hear it, but it's never, don't keep telling yourself it's not that deep. because sometimes I used to be, I'm working so hard on it, but I used to take everything so personally because I'm so sensitive, and I used to kind of feel like everything is a reflection of me and how you feel about me and what you think about me. And now I've learned to not deep it too much, to not ponder over it too much, to not make a thing about things too much, because I think it'll consume you to the point where you start believing it, and you don't need to do that. You don't need to deal with any of that. And I think that when you also recognize that it's not about trying to be better than everyone in the room, you realize that it's about learning that it's about not having to compete with everyone, if I'm making sense. Because I think if you're constantly feeling like I need to compete with this person, I need to do better than this person, whatever, it's showing a lack of confidence in yourself. It's showing that you're actually so insecure and easily intimidated and threatened by anyone who's doing good that you constantly need to prove yourself. But when you kind of feel like, I don't need to do that, I feel like you maintain that confidence you have with yourself, where you don't feel like you need to compare constantly with somebody else's lifestyle, somebody else's skills, somebody else's relationship, and all the rest. There's enough confidence that you have, with what you got, with who you're with what you're doing, what you're pursuing. And I think that it just makes you feel more fulfilled in that way. And I hope these are some tips that you can take with you in terms of if you're not feeling so confident in some things that you have going on in your life and stuff like that. Maybe it's because you spend so much time comparing. Maybe it's because you're spending so much time looking at somebody else, whatever it is, that you're not realizing that all of this, can be achieved. All of this confidence that you're searching for and all of that can be achieved if you just kind of recognize that it's a skill. I think it's a skill that a lot of extroverted people have kind of learned and mastered very early, is realizing that so if I do this and do that, it'll make me more popular and all the rest. And I think that, don't let your lack of confidence or thinking you don't have confidence hold you back from so many opportunities in life. Start faking it until you make it. Start pretending and acting as if you already have the thing that you want. That's another thing about fake confidence. Oh my word. Learning how to just move as if the thing that you desire is already within your hands, within your reach, is so golden. It's so golden. Like moving as if, say for example, you want to be an influencer with a lot of followers, all of that kind of stuff. Move as if you already have it. Keep that consistency. Keep engaging with people. Keep just maintaining the quality, showing up, all of that. If you want to be a great, a podcaster and all of that kind of stuff, keep doing research on what you want to talk about. Keep remembering the core values of what it is that you're setting out. You know what I'm saying? Like, pretend as if you already are that. If you want to be a great athlete and stuff, show up to practice every single time. Put in the extra time. Put in the extra effort. Pretend as if you're already a gold medalist and all of that kind of stuff. I feel like, that fake it till you make it thing is a real thing. If you already start pretending like you have the thing that you want, you're going to see how quickly life will start shaping up as if it already is, And that's really what I wanted to say today is, you deserve to have that confidence, and you are more likely to get it if you focus your attention on how to develop that skill. As always, I'm sending my love. Goodbye.
What in the 20s is going
In the
on?
20s,
Think about
yeah.
the 20s.
What
baby.
plenty.
What in the 20s is
I
going
am
on?
here for my 20s, baby.
This is the 20s.